here. Um, Good evening, everyone. I, Amit Narayan Kapoor, Director of Academic Management for the School of Business, feels elated today to extend a warm welcome to our speaker, faculty, and most of all to our participants to this bridge session on storytelling techniques for business. Before we start the session, let me take a few minutes to introduce JOLT, our partners, our distinguished speaker, Mrs. Fab, and my esteemed colleagues who have joined from UPS to this webinar. About JOLT. JOLT is a global edtech company specializing in tech industry. They offer live, online, hands-on workshop and short courses led by industry experts from top companies, enabling anyone to upskill, reskill, or launch a new technological career. JOLT's program and workshops have been delivered with notable partners such as the UK government, the Israeli Innovation Authority, and various universities and colleges worldwide. We are pleased to have JOLT as our partner at UPS. Allow me to welcome our colleagues from UPS and JOLT. We have Ms. Rachel Karyak joining us from JOLT. Rachel is a course and global project manager at JOLT. In her role, Rachel goes the extra mile to offer students and educational institutions a complete package that includes personalized operational support, guidance, and pedagogical development. Welcome to you, a very warm welcome to you, Rachel, and a good evening. We also have Dr. Debjani and Dr. Prasum from UPS. They need no introduction, as I'm sure some of you would have surely attended sessions from these two UPS faculty in this ongoing bridge journey. Now let me share a bit about our esteemed speaker for today's session, the faculty, Mrs. Fab. Ms. Fab is an award-winning entrepreneur who supports people making a positive impact through their marketing. As a teacher and CMO of a marketing agency, Fab helps business professionals reclaim their time. Through her community and online mentoring, she touched over 1 lakh people from all over the world. She's a keen speaker, writer, published author, and a guest lecturer across the UK. Fab, a very warm welcome to you for joining us today. I am personally excited to be part of your session today. A few hygiene points before I hand over the session to Fab, to all our participants. Participants, we would want the session to be engaging for you. We are recording this session, so in case you miss something, this session would be available as a recording at our UPS YouTube channel for a limited period of time. You may attend it or you may ask your colleagues to attend it. We have kept about 30 minutes at the end of the session for your queries regarding the session and UPS. For us to reply in a structured way, it is my request to all the participants to first ask the questions which are related to this webinar, so that because we have limited time with Fab, and then we can succeed them with the questions about UPS, which myself and our two esteemed faculty from UPS would be happy to answer. Most importantly, kindly ask your questions only in the Q&A box for us to respond in a streamlined manner. Fab may also give you some prompts during the session, and I would encourage all of you to reply on chat for the questions or prompts which Fab is going to give you on the chat box. I have enabled the chat box, so let's look forward. I look forward to this as an engaging session, and without further ado, I give the stage to Fab. Fab, stage is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. Good evening for yourselves. Good day on our side. It's quite sunny. Let me close my window. It's very sunny in here, so I'm going to bring us this cross-continental energy today. I am very, very excited to bring you a session. We'll see my screen in a second, all about storytelling techniques for business. And we're really going to jump in, understand, and we tell better stories. How can we find ways again and again to connect with our audience? We are going to play only one video right now at the beginning. No audio needed for the video. It's actually only visual, and it's going to be very short. It's only going to be literally 40 seconds. I would love for you to watch this. Again, there is the audio needed for this. And I would love you to think about what you are seeing. So I'm going to play in 1 second. Doesn't really matter the audio. Just look at what's happening. This is one of the most famous ads from Google. And this actually is an ad that literally only shows search results. This ad is from 2014, or actually from 2009, apologies, but it got over 8 million views in 2014. It was one of the most shared ads of all time at that stage. And it's a very simple video. And what I love about this video is that it tells a story. And I would love for you to think about a couple of things when it comes to this story. And if you want to write it in the chat, something that really jumped out at you, I'm going to do my best to keep an eye out for. One of the things that, we see is that the ad, what was it? Just anything about the product in Google search? Yes, it showed us how to use it. Were you impressed by the visuals in the production? Was it something really elaborate, fancy? Maybe not. When you think about it, it's actually very simple in how it was incepted, but it was telling a story. So if you caught a glimpse of the story or you kind of learned what it was about, let me know in the chat as well. If it spoke to you in any way, and you open the chat. But what I would love you to think about when it comes to this story is that it goes through a journey. It goes through a journey of a student that comes from abroad and goes to live in Paris, in France, and he meets a girl. And when he meets a girl, then he takes her out on a date. And then you go through this journey of him looking for a job in France and then actually looking for a church. Why? Because they're going to get married. And this ad of 40 seconds ends with them looking on how to assemble a crib, which is a toddler's bed. So it really shows the story from love at first sight all the way down to building a family together. And it's simply done with the power of storytelling. Nothing else, nothing fancy, nothing more. And this is what I want to teach us today. Remind us that storytelling doesn't have to be complicated. Storytelling can be powerful and it can be without having to have high production values either. Hello, my name is Fab and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a writer, I'm a lover of coffee and a storyteller. I am Italian by origin, but I have been living in the UK for the past almost like 14 years now. And I love telling stories. Telling stories is fun. Telling stories helps me sharing my journey, and other businesses I work with share their journey. And this is what people remember. People remember the examples. People remember those transformations. So what we are going to look at today is actually how to go from A to B, how to build a story arc for ourselves that allows us to take our audience with us. Is a presentation, whether it's any other type of content that we want to create for a business, storytelling really can help us become memorable. So if anybody's up for that, let me know. I am definitely up for that. And I want to show you that it doesn't have to be complicated. So without further ado, let me show you what we're going to cover. So I'm going to remind us briefly why stories, and then we're going to look at 3 different types of storytelling. We're going to look at the story spine from Disney. We're going to look at one-liners, and we're going to look at signature stories as well. Sometimes I still have to remind people that stories matter. We kind of know it, but I think it can be hard to think, why should I make the time to learn how to tell better stories? Well, let me tell you, we all grew up with stories, right? If you look at these 3 examples, I would love for you to think about what are the lessons from each of every of these stories. We have Beauty and the Beast. What's the lesson there? Beauty can also come from the inside. We have Cinderella right in the middle, as well as the reminder that maybe we should wear comfortable shoes when we go out dancing. There's also a reminder that you get what you give, and obviously being kind matters. Good old Pinocchio. What is the lesson there? Don't lie. Be honest and be good. Now, why do these stories matter? Because we remember. Love it. Somebody's like, yeah, don't lie. Exactly. So these stories remind us actually of that connection that we want to build. And well done. And the reason why that's important is because stories help us tell lessons. They teach us something in a non-patronizing way. What does that mean? Stories teach us a lesson that doesn't make us feel like, I don't need to hear this. They actually tell us a lesson that we want to hear and it will stick with us. Like, Fab, this is very good, but you're telling me this. So how do I know that this is right? Well, let me tell you a story. See what I did there? So significant objects. This is a very interesting example and experiment done by eBay. The two founders of eBay, Rob and Joshua, purchased items for $1 or less. And what they did is that they wanted to see if a story could actually upgrade the value of an object. And it was really interesting what they learned. What they did, so the two founders of eBay, what they did, they asked 200 and plus writers to write a story about these objects. And then they sold the items on eBay. These were really cheap objects. They just wanted to see how the good value of writing and stories bring anything to the table. If you ever try to sell anything on eBay, if you are that old, just like myself, you probably will know that it's not easy. So the writers had their work cut out for them. These are the beautiful objects. Yes, I know. That sounds interesting. So they had to write down, obviously, different things and different stories. Now, everybody, if you feel prompted to let me know in the chat, I see that you're being really active, which I like. The original price of this egg whisk was 25 cents. eBay is all about bidding, so it's auction. So you will, put the price and then go up and up until you get the final price. What do you think? I call it whiskey the egg whisker. What do you think it sold for? What do you think from 25 cents? What do you think dollars was the price? If you want to guess, you can guess in your beautiful heads, or you can guess in the chat. We got $1 here. Love it. $5. Fun fact, when I tell this to students, somebody once wrote $150. I was like, if that was the case, I said that you definitely want higher. We didn't go that much higher, so just want you to know. So we go between $1 and $5. The final price was $30. And this was the winning story. It's a very, very long story. I'm going to give us the summary. The story about this egg whisker is that there is a couple. He goes to the hospital and then they fight. And they fight because the girlfriend learns that he's a serial cheater and she's done with him. And so she actually takes with her as she's moving out only a few things, including this little egg whisk. And this little egg whisk reminds her every single time that she looks at his little happy, that everything will be okay, regardless of how hard things may feel at times. This is obviously the short version, but that is the full story that was provided there, got us there. One more pop quiz. Yes, it's a salt and pepper shaker. I know. Again, the original price, we're still down to the cents. What do we think we went up to? Now that you kind of see the price range, how much do you think this beautiful pepper shaker sold for? You can think about it in your heads. You can guess it. I love my people. Now you're like, Fab, you're not tricking me. I'm actually going to now go around that price. Nice. 25, 50, 20, 43.5. I love it. Team, well done. I got a few more in there. It is actually, again, not far off from most of your options. It's 28. So well done, everybody. So we are in that range. Excellent. Just to give you again a bit of a summary on this one as well. The story is all about going through the hardship of life. And this is actually from a violinist point of view, talking about loneliness and hardship of life and overcoming adversities. All of that comes from this salt and pepper shaker. I know that is the power. Now, this is an example that has lots of different things that we can take from, but I just wanted to remind us that really storytelling has so many benefits and really gets people to pay attention. So a couple of things that I want to say. Remember, people don't make decisions only based on logic. You know, logos and pathos and emotion. Emotion is really what get us through. So when we have the same information from two sources, you will see how emotion comes into play to help us make a decision. Also, let's be honest, you know, people might remember phone numbers of 3 people, including themselves these days. So a lot of facts and long term can be really powerful, and we can definitely remember those stories. Read are the ones that have the best stories that we're never going to forget. Also, obviously, stories help us engage with our, and they move people. Is that kind of facts tell, stories sell, you know? So really, stories help us moving people the right way. And what I love about them as well is that, especially when you're in business, especially if you're trying to, you know, get a decision and make people to commit to a decision, remember the stories allow people to focus on something and agree on it, because they actually allow us to find a common ground. So what are 3 stories fact for ourselves? Or story spine. I don't know if you ever heard, hopefully first I convince you that storytelling is important. So yay, we know that. Now let's look at Pixar. I know, of all things. The reason why I want to talk about a story spine is because telling stories is an art, and most of us, you know, still need to learn how to tell better stories. Like a normal person will probably be very linear in their storytelling. This is literally how I would tell a story, and how, just to show you how hard I had to commit to the art of telling better stories. It can be hard for us sometimes to understand where to keep, where to put our attention on. And Pixar actually came out with something that really helps with that. So the bad news here is that there are 22 rules. The good news, everybody, we're only going to touch 3 today. Pixar's 22 rules of storytelling were actually tweeted by a Pixar writer called Emma Coates, and has been cited countless of times before. Yeah. These rules are not just about the movie industry. They're not just about writing scripts. You know, there are so many things that we can take into account. The main technique that I'm going to talk to you about before, but I want to remind you of a few more as well. Can you think of a Pixar movie? Like, again, this is like a little bit of a fun question to see if we know roughly what we're talking about. If the chat, but if not, just think about maybe, yes. Toy Story, I mean, we have the example, but for life. And Bug's Life is actually very understated, so excellent shout. So, you know, these are all these stories, and they all actually follow the same structure. So we're going to look at that in a second. A couple of stories that I want to, sorry, a couple of rules that I want to remind us of before we jump into our technique. Rule number 2 is actually a really good one, because it reminds you that, you know, what is interesting to you as an audience might not be fun for you to do as a writer. It's not necessarily the same thing. So especially when you are either writing or telling stories, you have to remember that you have to put a different hat on. Yeah. So very often we can actually get our ego in the way, which means, you know, we actually have to let some of the stories go and maybe focus on the stories that we know with the message that we want to come across, the goal that we're trying. You know, when you think about it, how many times when you have an idea or when you are presenting something, how many times do you actually think about this and do it? You know, should we do this more often? Probably yes, most of us do. And this comes with practice. So choosing the right stories to tell is almost as important as learning how to tell stories. And it all comes with practicing and understanding, like, what stories can we tell, and then making the decision of whether it's serving the right purpose. On that note, which is me again, also, this rule is a hard one, is like focus, simplifying. And the rule itself says, you know, combine character detours. You feel like you're losing stuff by simplifying, but it actually sets you free. I don't know if you're somebody that overcomplicates things. This is an actual footage of me. When I think and simplify it, I always tend to have that kind of, adding more things because it feels there's more value, it makes it more interesting. Most of the time is all about looking at what we have and see what can be taken out. Something that I do a lot with my clients and especially students as well is looking at presentations, whichever kind of presentation. How can you simplify? How can you keep what's really, really important so that especially if this presentation, you can make sure that people are not distracted by what's written and they can really focus on the core of what you're trying to say. So bye unnecessary details. Let's keep the magic in there. And then obviously we go back to what I said at the beginning, but this is, it kind of works well with the first rule we talked about, which is then digging deeper into the why of our stories, And I love this because this comes again from a movie industry perspective, which reminds us that even with entertainment, we still need to ask ourselves, why do you need to tell this story? What's the burning belief that your story feeds on? What's at the heart of that story? What's the reason why you're sharing this story? What is it going to tell us? Is it amplifying a point? Is it reinforcing some beliefs? Is it giving social proof? Whatever that might be, why are you telling this story? All been there, or most of us, especially if you're chatty like myself, I guess that's the Italian in me that comes out. A lot of the time we say something, we start telling a story, then, we realize that we don't know why we're telling it in the first place. So that's a great reminder of thinking about the purpose of the stories that we tell. And there is one story above all that is great when it comes to actually having clear purpose. And that is the story spine, which is the technique that I wanted to tell you about. I don't know if you've ever seen Finding Nemo, but I wanted to show you, let me know in the chat, but I wanted to show you the story spine of Nemo. This is what it literally looks like. So the actually phrase in blue at the beginning is the prompt for each stage of the story spine. Yeah. And the story spine is an internal starting to talk about a journey. Yeah. Or we can overthink it. This is a great structure that can help us, not just when we're talking about a beautiful little fish that got lost. It starts always with the once upon a time, just like, in this case, it's like once upon a time, there was a widowed fish named Marlin who was extremely protective of his only son, Nemo. This is really where we are setting the scene. This is what I also call like where we are kind of like talking about the normality of what things are at. And this you can use even when you're telling your own story professionally or even as a business. And then you talk about every day, what was the habit? Every day Marlin warned Nemo and implored him not to swim far away. This is the habit. This is what was happening in the old normal. One day, there's a challenge. In an act of defiance, Nemo ignores his father's warning and swims into the open water. From this challenge, because of that, there are complications. Because of that, he's captured by a diver and ends up in the fish tank of a dentist in Sydney. More complications. Because of that, Marlin sets off on a journey to recover Nemo, enlisting the until is the resolution. We always are, so never forget about these steps. Marlin and Nemo find each other and love deepens the trust. And ever since then, here we go, the new normal, they learn to go out and that love depends on trust. So when you look at this story, you actually see there's a transformation that's happening. That's what we call a little story mountain. And the beauty of this is that you can use rule number 4, which is, building a story spine to tell stories that take us on a journey. We can use it for ours. We're building our person, some of the things that we have to overcome to get where we're at. And we can look at it for different types of examples and build it by just following this simple structure. Once you use something like this, you can use it as a starting point to then obviously, elaborate and write stories wherever you want. So how can we take some of this and then put it in real life context? obviously see copywriting or constantly starting with once upon a time. That would be great, but also a bit weird. So what you can actually see if you look around is great example of this done in different scenarios. And I wanted to show you one example. This is for Brandon Harris, and it says, "Hello, I'm Brandon Harris. In 2014, I crashed my motorcycle in Hawaii, which landed me in a coma for 13 days. At the time, I was also recovering from having my jaw wire shut for 4 months from a previous injury, and I desperately needed a device to re-strengthen the muscle on my face and neck. So in 2016, I created Jaw Size to rehabilitate my jaw. Not only did I recover, but my jaw is stronger than ever with my double chin reduced and confidence reinstilled. To share it with the world." Story is how you escape competition. You can clone the idea, but you can clone the story. So whether it's the founder, whether it's the company, whether it's anybody involved, whether it's your professional story, these are things that we can't clone and change. And taking people through that journey of what happened, what was the challenge and the hurdle, obviously, what were the complications into a new life solution is literally a longer type of story that we can use, especially for starting to learn how we want to kind of position ourselves. And I like to start with this because it's something that can actually be a great exercise, just something that you can start practice for yourself. Could you write your own story spine, for example? Could you actually write, how you overcome a challenge? And then after that, after we know how to use theories like this, we can elevate. And the way to elevate stories, believe it or not, is actually to make them to the point, strong and short. And one-liners are great examples of very short stories that pack a punch. I don't know if you ever heard of the one-liner. This is actually from Donald Miller's method. He's the CEO of Story Brand, so you can tell what he talks about a lot in his stories. And it's a great approach that he teaches that is not too salesy. It's very much at the core of what we're looking for as customers and as people. So I think it's actually a very, very powerful way to, kind of take things to the next level when it comes to telling great stories. Now, think about it this way. Liner is one sentence. It can be a long sentence, but it's one sentence. And what it does, it explains what you do and what you are in a way that would capture most people's attention, just like you would describe a movie, whatever that might be. So like one-liners would not be things like it's complicated or my father started this company years ago. The one-liners are short and are to the point. And the one-liners have 3 elements, which kind of helps, and 3 building blocks. First of all, we want to identify our customer and their problem. Then we want to explain our plan to help them. And then finally, very important, we describe the successful ending of their story. So we start obviously with thinking about the problem and identifying the problem, which is something that in business we know is very important for us to do. And remember, be specific, especially when it comes to something like a one-liner. Make sure there is a pain point and, slowly make it, if you can, make it shorter. I'll give you examples of how we took a longer story, a real and we can make this one-liner shorter. It will always start a bit longer, but the important thing is that we identify that problem they can look at and be like, oh my God, this is me. So for this fun exercise, we're going to look at pet food company, yeah? And we're looking at the main problem that we know as the marketing team of this pet food company. We know that their main concern and problem for pet owners is the quality of the food they're eating. So we start with this. Pet owners are concerned about what their pets are really eating. And this is obviously outlining that problem and identifying it. And then we think about us. That's where we come in. And we're like, okay, what is our plan to help them overcome that? Think about things like your services and your products. And as much as possible, go back to that benefits over feature so that you can kind of specify what is that journey that you're going to take them from. So if we were to do it this way and add to what we have, pet owners are concerned about what their pets are really eating. So we source our food from trusted local vendors. And that is kind of adding, how are we going to help? What's our plan? And then we wrap it up like a beautiful bow, yeah? So we want to actually look at the successful ending to our story. How are we going to tell them that we're going to help them reach the desired outcome? Once again, we're going to try and keep it brief, but also make sure that you look at that positive feeling. Don't just think about, obviously, what you're going to do, but how is your audience, your customer going to feel if they were to follow through and get our help? So in this example is pet owners are concerned about what their pets are really eating. So we source our local vendors, which ensures your pet stays happy and healthy. Yeah. So what have we done here? And once again, we looked at the problem, we gave a plan, and then we brought up the solution. How do we turn this beautiful but relatively long one-liner into a shorter one? We practice, but it can be done. And I want to show you. So if I were to take this and make it a bit shorter, this is how I would do it. So, we want only the best for your pet. So we carefully source our food locally for a happy meal time. Can you spot some of the emotional words in here? Let me know if you can see any in the chat. We'll keep an eye out. I'm just going to have a sip of water. But there are words that we can add, and we make sure that we don't lose as we are making our one-liner shorter to really tap into the emotion. Yes, Tashi. We could even argue the best could be a good one as well. Yeah, carefully, Tushar. Well done. Yeah, exactly. You see? So what happens a lot of the time, yes, best as well. Yeah. What happens a lot of the time, well done, everybody. Well done at picking these. Is that when we make our story shorter, we tend to take out the emotional words first. I don't know why, as humans. And that's where it's really important that we actually, remember to keep these powerful words, these emotional words in what we're writing. So I have a mini challenge for us. I have 2 challenges today. A mini challenge for us, and you can try it. I'll show you my examples, but if you want to try it, I'm going to give us a minute. And I would like for us to try and write a one-liner for LinkedIn. I know, casual, very humble. We're going to use LinkedIn. But it's because I want to show you how they took, their own one-liner, and then they turned it into a very powerful marketing campaign and message for their business. Yeah. So if you were to do it for LinkedIn, you can write it in the chat. If you feel that you want to try, please write it in the chat. We can read a few. So what we need to do, we need to think about what's the customer, what's your audience, and what's their problem. So think about it as the users of LinkedIn. Who are they? And then how are we going to help the users of LinkedIn? Yeah. And then finally, think about what will be the successful ending to their stories. Yeah. So we have obviously all the jobs in one place. Love that. Yes, that's great. That's definitely some things that we can offer. If you can build a sentence that would have the platform, I love that too. That's great. Yes, connection people. That's great. So these are all the things that we offer. Then we think about what are some of their problems. Is it the overwhelm? Is it the lack of connection? And we can kind of see how we combine them together. So I love all of these ideas. These are great. If you have a few more, you can write them down, and then I'll show you what I would do as well. Yeah. So reach to recruiters with ease as well. So, connections and jobs at ease. I love all of these. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, connecting lives too. I love that. Connecting professional to sharing connective lives. I love that combination. I think is really powerful. So I love all of these. Thank you, everybody. They're excellent examples. I'll show you my 2 cents. And this is based on a campaign they did. So I had a bit of insider knowledge. Apologies. Cheating here. And your journey to success. Yes, I love that too. So this is the one-liner that reflects the current direction on LinkedIn. So this is actually a real campaign. So that's created this, yeah. For professionals who feel they do not belong, LinkedIn provides a space to share your story with the world so that you can feel part of a community. You might be like, Fab, is this really what LinkedIn does? Yes, it is. So LinkedIn started this campaign in 2022, which is called I Am a Professional, which I love. So I am professional, and the campaign says from their press release, for professionals who feel they do not belong, LinkedIn provides a safe space to share your story. Follow these members that you see here. So follow some of the members, they spotlighted them. And in continuing this conversation about redefining what professional is. Yeah. So I love this campaign because then it encourages you as well as a LinkedIn member and user to share what professional means to you and how the LinkedIn profiles and how the platform allows people to showcase their whole and unique self. And the beauty of it is that there are huge, amazing creators and professionals that will do the same. And then they started actually sharing what professional means to them, you know? And I think this was a really, really powerful example on how we can use something like a one-liner and kind of, you know, create a campaign around it. And obviously then encourage people to share it and actually be part of that. So many different ways. You know, if you have a memorize it, if you and then you can start, you know, making sure that others use it as well, so that whenever people think about you, they can think about you and connect it to that specific one-liner. You know, go back to it and even use it in your presentations, even in your marketing materials. You can use the one-liner as a way to remind people of who you are and how you help your audience, putting your audience, you know, in the first place, you know, putting them at the forefront of it as well. And then last but not least, a signature story. And a signature story goes back to what we talked about, but it makes it more about one specific challenge. So a signature story, it's basically the story of how you change other people's lives, ideally, or how your life has changed thanks to specific skills, specific knowledge. And signature stories are also great when it comes to recruiting and professionals. It's really interesting to see how people use it, just to kind of explain, obviously, their strength and, like, you know, why they should be great candidates as well. I love it because it actually highlights, you know, a specific challenge that either you or your customers have faced. And it really clarifies your values, your business strategy. It really connects with people. And it's all about, again, sharing that transformation, their A to B, in a simple and effective way. Wow. Communicating any type of message online is hard. So most of us tend to tune out from these messages because we're overwhelmed, but people are less likely to tune out from a story. Also, internally, your team is actually searching for meaning. So finding a powerful way to communicate your cultures and your strategy can really people to rally up and connect with who you are, your journey. So don't be afraid to do that for yourself and for the brand. And also, more and more customers are now looking to have relationships with brands they admire and share their values with, which means that they're looking to connect with companies and brands that they think and they see embody their same values. So really a signature story reminds us of what we believe in and what we stand for and what we want to be. It's almost like that value first approach that kind of helps you remind yourself what you stand for and others as well of that too. This is a great example from Olio, which is an amazing recycling and kind of repurposing kind of app. So it allows people to actually waste less by kind of sharing within your neighborhood. And it says, let's not waste our wonderful world. Obviously, that's a big, powerful element. You see also the visual story is quite clear as well, which I think is really impactful. I love this. The video as well is a great video for this ad, but I wanted to show you just a simple example of how, you know, it's just about remember, like, what do you stand for? Now, can you share that with your audience? How can you share that internally and externally and make sure that all of that is reflecting across everything you do? So what are the steps of a great signature story? Beep. We got more steps. I like to look at 4 steps for this, by the way, because as I said, this is very much about understanding how were you able to overcome the challenge. So we always start with a challenge that you or your customer is experiencing. Yeah, so that's where we start. From that, we're going to look at 3 things. 1, what skill did you need to overcome said challenge? 2, which action did you take to overcome the challenge? And 3, what was the outcome that you got from it? So first of all, identify the challenge, then look at what skills did you need to overcome it, then which action did you take to make that happen? And finally, the outcome is always present, as you see in all these stories, because it's really where people can reflect on who do they want to be. People don't buy into who they are, they buy into who they want to be. Remember this. We look for things that can improve us, that can make our life easier. So really that outcome is something that other people might want to reflect, I want to also be part of. So when you think about it, I'll show you a great example afterwards that I think is really good. Signature stories can have a variety of angles. For example, it can be a company's commitment to saving the planet. Maybe it's your personal passion for taking risks. Maybe it's an entrepreneur's resourcefulness. Or your priorities, family, friends, being a good person, any. Or maybe it's a nonprofit sacrifice and dedication to a specific cause. Think about everything that is important to you, your company, how you show up, and the reason why you show up as well. I actually really like this example, Netflix, of, this is an example of a campaign, but I think it reminds us of, sometimes what we're looking for is that reminder that we can overcome our challenges, that, things can get better. And I love how Netflix was like, don't give up on your dreams. We started with DVDs. And God damn it, they're right. I think it's really important. It's like, yeah, it's actually true. Don't give up on your dreams. And I love that idea that they're like, well, yeah, we started with DVDs. So now I have one more challenge for us before we look at questions, anything that might come up from your side of things that can be answered. I have 2 scenarios, and I would love for you to think about which of these 3 techniques would you use for each scenario. We have the picture story spine, we have the one-liner, and we have the signature story. So which technique would you use if you're walking into an elevator and the head of an investment fund and that you're trying to get a meeting for your startup happens to be in it? So you're going into an elevator, there's a head that you want to have a meeting with for your startup, and they're in it. Yes. Saptarshi like, I'm not going to wait. I know what I'm going to say. One-liner. There's not necessarily a right or wrong. I also want to say, by the way, if you told me a signature spine, I would be like, that story might be a bit long. I love the one-liner. Everybody's like, Fab, you're not fooling us. One-liner is the way to go. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's a very, very interesting one to use and also very powerful one. As I said, you can also see a signature story work very well, but we haven't got time. So which technique or techniques for this one, for example, to create a presentation for a new potential client in your, what would be maybe 1 or 2 techniques that you would use and how? I would love you to think about it for a minute and see. Then I will tell you who use. Nice. So nice. Okay. Well, a lot of signature stories here. We got also the Pixar one as well as in there. I love that. And Pixar too. Yeah, I agree. So I love this, everybody. Thank you so much. So I would say I would combine, Pixar story spine and signature. Excellent. I will combine both. I think your one-liner will probably appear anyway in some respect, potentially, like at the beginning, just, this is who we are. But I think the signature story could be great to be used, for example, as social proof. So if you want to, make a case about how a product of yours changed your audience's life or changed a customer's, experience or, challenge, that will be a great one, so really that signature story can help with social proof to actually back like a customer story and success. And then I would love the Pixar story spine. I would use that more to actually even introduce yourself or the company, or obviously even like the personal story of the founder, whatever that might be, as a way to actually set the scene of the journey that you have been going through so far, because I think it's really powerful. And even if it is a bit longer, when you do it right, it obviously can set the tone. And instead of telling we are X, Y, and Z, we've worked with X, Y, and Z, we have been featured in these publications, you can tell, well, we all started with this dream, or we wanted to do things differently, and we set on a journey to make a change in the industry. And as we tried, we learned this and this and this until we found our way to, create something new and different. And by doing that, we've helped X amount of people doing this. So you see, actually, a story spine can really show how you wanted to change something that was old and outdated and bring something new to the table, which I think is really powerful. So before I let us have questions, a couple of things that I want to remind us from what we have learned today. I hope you already learned a lot. More than happy to see if there's any questions. Start implementing storytelling wherever you can. I have something called a story bank where I collect all of my stories that I think are worth sharing or I want to reshare. And it's a really powerful way for me to keep track of the stories that I'm telling. So the first thing that I would always ask myself is, who is the audience of your story? What will they listen to? So whenever you're practicing, think about what you're telling your stories for. And then second thing, remind yourself, what are you really trying to get across? Why are you telling this story? And then thirdly, practice your story, especially these powerful stories that you're going to use more than once. And then tell your stories to other people and ask what they took from it. I think that's a really powerful way when you're telling stories to really learn, kind of what you can take out of it and how can you make it more powerful for yourself. Really ask other people, what did you take from the story that I just said? What is the main lesson from here? Remember, if something doesn't feel right, and if the story doesn't feel the right story to tell, it probably isn't. That's from our rules earlier on. And honestly, everybody loves a story. Yeah. So don't be afraid to implement and incorporate them in business, in your content, in your presentations, in your pitches, in your talks as well. People will remember the stories. People will connect with the stories. So make sure that you add them to create something memorable and special. I would say, first of all, questions. We'll make sure that now we have all the questions. Also, if you have any other questions, I want to say thank you for listening to this part where I actually gave you hopefully lots of techniques for you to try. And if you have any questions now, you can ask them. You can also find me on social afterwards if there's any other stories that you would like me to share with you or any other examples. But now is a good time for you to ask anything that you might have, any questions that might be coming for you when it comes to anything that I shared and beyond. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen and do that one sec. There we go. And see what's happening.
Thank you, Fab. I really enjoyed your session. In fact, if I recollect correctly, while listening to Pixar's storytelling rules, I remembered that Pixar's rule of storytelling was, I believe, originally tweeted by Emma Coates, Pixar's story artist, and it was, if I remember, rule number 9, that when you are stuck, make a list of what wouldn't happen next. Is a rule which all the writers can apply, and something which is keeping you stuck may pop out.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So I request the participants, please feel free to ask your questions from Fab in the Q&A session about the recently concluded session, if they have any, please. So Dimple is asking the first question, Fab. Thank you for the wonderful things. For the potential client question, can we go with one-line story and then join the Pixar story? Will that be okay?
Yeah, if I'm correct with what you're asking, to pitch a potential client. I think that's kind of what we're going to take it as. I would also say always look at this scenario as well that you have. I think that's the other thing to remember. Look at how much time you have for these stories. Starting with the one-liner always helps because it's a shorter story and it really taps into, this is your problem, this is how we're going to solve it, this is how you're going to feel afterwards. So I would always start, like if you were to do both, I would always start with that shorter, or hooks you in and gets you shorter, especially when it comes to them making the decision. Is this right for me? Should I listen on? Should I, ask further? Should I take more action as well?
Thanks.
Oh, you're welcome, everybody, by the way.
I again urge the participants, the attendants, if they have any questions from Fab, please feel free to ask in the Q&A box. We have Fab with us for another few minutes, and then we'll not hold on to her longer if you may not have any further questions.
If anybody's trying to think about their question, I want to just elaborate on something else. If you're still thinking about what you'd like to ask, just one thing that I think can really help. So we've got a couple. Of another question in the actual chat. So I'm going to pick up that. Boom. Okay, pick it up. Hope. Is AI going to change this, like the human context and story writing itself? That's a question. It's always like, this will be probably a session in itself, just talking about all the implications. Thing that I would always know is that when you look at the storytelling that we have been learning today, especially, it's not just about techniques, it's actually about thinking about your stories as well. So I'm going to say, yes, it's going to change for sure. It's going to definitely change the way that we write stories, the way that we do it with the support of AI or even without. One thing that we have, though, first of all, is that like our uniqueness in how we, which is something that we can always add. And I would say do, because, the way that I deliver a story hopefully has been memorable to you, which means you're going to remember some of these things just because of how I explained them. But also, especially, this is why what I wanted to say earlier is start collecting your own stories. I know even the ones you think like, why should I write down about me, getting offered a coffee by a stranger? It might not be relevant, as we said, is this relevant to me? But maybe it's all about, the kindness that we can see in others, and it's very relevant because it's something that you want to share within your business, how to be kind to people. So these things, that story that happened to you, it can be replicated by AI. Your personal story, your origin story even cannot be replicated. So I think, that's something to always remember. So I don't know if he answers the question. Definitely is going to change it. But what you have unique is how you speak, even with replication of tone of voice, is still how you speak and the stories that you bring to the table as your personal stories. It's hard in business to know whether you should tell them. That's where you have to understand your boundaries. But if you can, they're the ones that people remember, why you do what you do and what do you want to do and how do you want to change the world as well. We've got two more questions. Would you like to choose which one I go first? There's one in the chat and there's one in the Q&A. So
sure, Fab. So first I'll take Tushar's comment. He is probably, written what we have in mind also. Tushar, on behalf of all of us, is now inviting you to the campus. So Tushar, yes, we will definitely request Fab. And India is a beautiful place. I don't know, Fab, if you have visited our campus or not, you'll really enjoy it at the foothills of the mountain. Especially
okay.
when the time when it is, it's raining and all that. The time is yet to come. So thank you, Tushar, on our behalf for inviting Fab over here. We can take one question on the chat. Dr. Prasoom has asked, have you ever observed effectiveness of storytelling in advertisement? And then we'll go to the next question in chat. Thank you.
Wonderful. Amazing. So first one, yes. That's really where a lot of good storytelling can be seen. There are tools like, I'm going to put it in the chat for everybody as well. For example, like literally the simplest is also free, so score. Like if you go to the Drum as a website, it's a great website that actually showcases examples of marketing campaigns based on advertising campaigns. So I think that is a great example of, obviously some campaigns, as we know, are very visual, you know, so that's just a story in that, but it's not necessarily that. But obviously there are especially video campaigns, I would say, to me, are the ones that better break down the storytelling, that better showcase the storytelling element. Copywriting itself, which is part of storytelling, obviously can be done with a very short, we saw a few short messages, but that is different. So, you know, I like to look at examples to see what resonates with me. I see that it can be effectively done in many ways, but specifically for storytelling in advertising, it comes down to the video piece and to video kind of type of ads and content, just because it allows you to elaborate on that story. And as even with the shorter stories, as we've seen, there is still something that needs to be kind of shed. So for sure, yes, there is. I like to constantly look at what's coming, because then different campaigns, I will see the stories and resonate with me. So that's a great tool for you, or a great website for you if you are interested in this kind of area, to look at and just see what is being produced and which story have been told. Especially, one more thing I'm going to add to that, especially customer stories, especially team stories, people's stories are very powerful. Business, yes, fine. But when we look at the actual individuals behind the curtains, those are really powerful stories that really connect with people. So I hope we answer the question, and also go and check out the Drum if you're interested in this type of content as well.
Thank you, Fab. Manisha is asking, hi, Fab, thanks for a great session. Could you share some book recommendations on storytelling or writing for beginners?
Yay, we like a beginner, right, everybody? We celebrated Manisha already. Excellent. Yes, so books. One, this is interesting, but one of my favorite books about storytelling is not really about storytelling for business, and it is On Writing by Stephen King. I know, a bit left field, but it's a great, the reason why I love it is because it really talks about how to tell great stories, obviously from a novel, a fiction perspective, but it really helped me as a writer. I've written a couple of books myself, so it really helped me as a writer learn how to tell better stories. So don't knock the more traditional ones, because they're really, really powerful. There are great books about storytellings. There is one actually, I think it's called How to Pitch. Interwebs, let me just check. And that's a simple one that stories, but that was a really good one as well. When it comes to this, again, I would still get started with like looking at copywriting books a bit more, especially because I think these are some of the powerful ones. So think about things like, there is actually a really good one that I'm just looking at right now, Misha, for you. There is a really good one that is called the One-Page Marketing Plan. And I know it doesn't sound like it's about storytelling, but one about storytelling. So if you're looking for, I will definitely look into that. Recommendations. One is obviously about like the story brand, which is the one that we talked about by Donald Miller. So I talked about him earlier. So if you look at Donald Miller on Amazon, you'll be able to find his books, and they're great, and they're all about storytelling. And the other one that I really, really like, that I was trying to remember, which is again a bit more for beginner, is the story selling method, which includes storytelling, but it also breaks down what we talked about today. And I'm going to add one more, sorry, everybody, because it's maybe different, but it's really good. And it's called Talk Like TED. And it's a bit less about writing, but I used actually what I learned from there. It's called Talk Like TED. I used these lessons that is all about how to actually, literally run a TED talk. So you can imagine it's quite interesting. And I used it actually to then translate it also into my writing. So it's really a masterclass in storytelling, keeping it simple, keeping it to the point. So you can kind of use that as well. Hope it helps. These are a couple of options.
Thanks, Fab. There's an attendant who has asked that. I believe this is a bit of what has been you have answered before. AI is getting developed. Do you think AI is better in storytelling than us? Will it affect our future opportunities?
You're right. So I did mention a bit of that before. So I'm going to say,
Yeah.
going back to what I mentioned before, very briefly, it will change it for sure. I don't think it's going to get better than us at telling our own stories, simply because they are our own stories. That's how I would see it. And for future opportunities, I think one of the strengths I've been part of some panels as well. I mean, talked at some panels. It's all about learning how to use it and how to work with it so that you can actually leverage as a strength instead of seeing it as a weakness. So if you understand how you can use AI for storytelling to help you maybe write better stories, but still bring your own source to the table. A practical example, there is a friend of mine who's a marketer and a writer, and she uses some AI support, for example, to review some of her content, like an editor, to proofread and review and help with reference checking. That's helpful. So, but because she's trying to understand how to make it work for herself, she can leverage it. So I think it's a mindset shift before anything else. Obviously, this could be a conversation which could lead to hours of that, but I hope it helps. Like, think about, can I and could I leverage it to help me out instead of seeing it necessarily as an hindrance? That might help you looking at different ways that you can use it to complement what you're doing. But your stories tend to be the best because they're yours.
Thanks. So we are also your students, Fab, and I have a question from Rachel and one from my end. Rachel is asking that, would you say that there is a better technique for certain accusations? And my question is, what is the best way to practice storytelling? So these two at your end at one go.
I love them. Rachel, I'm going to ask you, what do you mean by accusations? I'm sorry.
I think I spelled it wrong. Occasions.
I thought so. Wrong. It was like, oh, I think it's occasions.
The corrector. The automated corrector.
Yes, there are better techniques for better occasions, depending on how, what I think is, what is your goal? Remember that we said at the beginning, everybody, why are you going to tell a specific story? What's the reason for you to tell this story right now? I think that's going to be a big one for you. But also, I would say, we went back to what I said earlier when we looked at a different pop quiz. It also depends how much time you have. I know it sounds very basic, but it's true. It depends on, for that side of things, in order to kind of practice and get the right stories in, you need to think about, what is the best scenario for me to say this? So, for example, one-liners work really well, in my opinion, as something that you can use as a North Star. So you can actually use it as, this is kind of what we do. This is how we help our people. And the beauty of it is that it's also very quick for you to say. So if you memorize it, it can be used for a variety of reasons. And then going back to the signature story, for example, just to give you some practical examples, is a great technique, especially when you are trying to bring, we talked about it before as well. It can even be for yourself. So talking about recruiting, I mentioned it earlier. So if you're looking for a job, if you're like looking to hire somebody, that's a great kind of story to have in your arsenal. Or ask about, can you tell me a story through which you overcame a challenge? That's literally, so many of us have heard that when we have been in interviews. And this is why it's so powerful to actually have this story for ourselves. But also, if somebody is looking to hire you as a consultant, if somebody is looking to hire your company or work with you, that's also why it's so important. So it's a great social proof and pitches. And then the story spine, to me, that's a great technique that you can master to know your internal story. So a lot of these stories we've used outside, is unlikely that you're going to be, once upon a time, there was a woman called Rachel. It will be like, okay. But it's good for you to do that still for yourself, to see, okay, this was a big change in my life. This is the reason why I started my business, for example. I'm actually going to write it down as a story. So you might not tell everybody that way, the whole story, but then you can use that in different iterations. And then the second bit as well, what is the best way to practice storytelling? Don't hate me. Practice. What I mean by that is, first of all, try and do these 3 techniques for yourself. That would be the first thing, just literally, because you have 3 almost templates that will help. When you're starting and you're like, I don't know how to tell stories, templates or techniques really help is like, okay, I know that I can do a story spine. I'm going to actually write my own, you know. And the other thing is, my favorite thing is choose your format. So if you know that you're going to do a lot of interviews, a lot of pitches, a lot of sales, video makes sense because then you can practice, ideally cringe and re-listen to yourself, but obviously it makes a lot more sense. If you know that you're actually going to use it more to write content or to write your website or landing pages, use it as writing. Almost think about it as micro case studies. So you can almost task yourself with that. Or even better, if you want to make a more public challenge, depends on your level of comfort for both scenarios. For the video scenario, you can start your own Instagram, even on LinkedIn if you want, series of videos. So that's a step back, you know, that's a step up. You're not just doing it for yourself, like record the videos and then delete them or just watch them on your own. You can actually put them, and that creates accountability. So that will help you, you know, practice storytelling by doing a video a day for the next 21 days or a video a week for the next 21 days. If you're doing the storytelling from writing perspective, same thing. I'm going to write a blog post. I'm going to write an email, something that is longer than a tweet, please. So I'm going to write something every day for the next 21 days to develop that. There will be, so you're taking from just writing for yourself, one step up, create accountability, put practice. And that will help a lot as well. Which one should I do next? We got 2 more in the chat room.
We
Wow,
have one question pending from a participant. Any specific book for signature stories?
That's a good one. 1 second, maybe. It's hard because I think a signature story is all about kind of overcome challenges. Oh, actually, I have one, which is going to be sounding weird. There's 2, actually. There's going to be something weird, but bear with me. The first one is Still Like an Artist. Still Like an Artist, which is a good one. It has 3 books on the same ilk. This is a good one, but all of them are really good. But also, I know it's going to be weird, but we're going to go with Brené Brown, good old Brené. Why? Because actually, especially, I mean, Dairy Greatly is probably the best, which is all about being vulnerable and how being vulnerable can help us to lead. And I think that's a great example. If you want to tell a signature story, you're going to talk about overcoming challenges. So if you want to learn and read a book about it, you know, learning how to be vulnerable and talk about the challenges and overcome it is a great way to do it. So Brené Brown might actually be a good one. They are different. The less about learning and the more about actually showing you and kind of giving you the tools. But, you know, that's something to explore. We got one other one there. Shall I just read it? Shall I go ahead?
Yes, I can read it for you, Fab. Would you agree that becoming a good storyteller would be to become aware of a particular point of view by Dr. Debjani?
Excellent question. I think yes and no, and kind of even more so. So let me explain. I think becoming a good storyteller is being always open to learn about different point of views. So I know this is kind of like a bit of a roundabout answer, but I think, you know, if you want to become a great storyteller, I would say, is not just kind of, you know, being aware of one point of view, is actually being able to understand and unpack the different pain points of the people around us and even ourselves. So it's a bit about the point of view for sure, but at the end into also what we have to give, what we have to do. So maybe, you know, maybe that's something that you were specifically thinking about, which is probably also that, but on a wider spectrum, I find that one of the different reasons to tell the stories, but maybe you kind of like, there's something else that you were thinking about with that as well.
It's actually the second part that you were actually thinking about, how to sell a product. So you have to be aware of a particular point of view.
Oh no.
I think there is Has your question been answered, Dr. Debjani?
Yes, de-
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. We will move on to the next question from Tushar. Can documentary be an example of signature story?
Yes. I will keep it. I mean, yes, but I would say keeping it short as well. Like that's the thing with that is like probably a long documentary can also be an example of a signature story. I think the best thing that works are like shorter kind of stories. I like that. So always be mindful when it's a longer documentary. Because you know that one story can be told in so many ways. But yeah, that's definitely a good one. No, our grandparents are the best storytellers, yes. The wisdom, because we remember, you know, I think these days we don't retell. Then we'll get to the next question. I just wanted to say, but we don't tell and retell our stories as much. Whereas older generations, apologies, like me, like baby, but you know, we would tell the stories again and again, and you're like, yes, granddad, I heard this story, I know it. But actually, there's a lot of power in that repetition. So that's actually a great point. Just wanted to say that. Sorry.
Thanks, Fab. There is another question from Manisha. Empathy or logic? Which aspects play a crucial part in storytelling and why?
Boom. So empathy / emotion, logic, and so logos, ethos, and pathos. So all of them work. So obviously logos is logic and data. Ethos is credibility and trust. Yes, tick, tick. And the pathos is the emotions. They all work. What is often missing, so in answer to your question, is the empathy or the emotional aspect. Because we naturally, even as I'm a marketer, so even as marketers, we naturally somehow cling on to facts, or you know, we want to make sure that people know that we can be trusted, so the credibility, the social proof. The emotion is what historically, having done this for 10 years almost, and I've been in marketing for 15, I've seen that is missing. Like we all kind of omit it or forget about it. So to me, is the most important, is the most underestimated, utilized. And also because, as I said before, emotions really help us to connect. So if we go back to the idea, it's not that we want to, let's put it this way, it's not that we want to have more money because we want to have more money. It's because we're linking it to a specific feeling or a specific outcome we're going to get from, for example, having that specific thing happen to us. So maybe it's the freedom, maybe is, you know, like the different things that we can then achieve with it. Maybe it's the success, whatever that might be. So that will be my point of that, my note on that side.
I think we are out of questions for now for the session. So let me take this opportunity, Fab, to thank you, profoundly thank you. The proof of the pudding is, you know, us as faculty and staff, we also asked you question. So I'm sure our participants found this session engaging, interacting, and we would definitely take this opportunity to invite you to our campus when you are visiting this part of the world. Once again, thank you so much on behalf of UPS team, on behalf of all the participants who have attended today. It was great having you with us over here, Fab. And Rachel, thank you so much for your coordination, for your help in making this a success at our end. Thank you. Thank you to Jolt. Thank you to both the Jolters.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. I request participants, if they have any questions around UPS, now is the time. You may start and you may ask the questions around UPS. Our faculty, Dr. Prasoom, Dr. Devjani, and myself would be happy to take any questions, any queries regarding UPS, which you may have. Okay. Dr. Prasoom, when is the college starting for general MBA?
Yeah, so the classes are starting from 6th of July.
Okay.
I hope you would have received I think information or details from enrollment departments by now. Just check your inbox.
Okay, so we had same question asked from Ayan and Dimple and 2, 3 of the participants. That classes are starting, commencing from 6th of July. You would have
Yes.
received a communication from us. Till then, the bridge session, as we promised to you in March when we started the entire journey, will continue. And we look forward to have you with us on this journey. Okay, in case you have not received any info, you will soon be receiving the information about the starting of classes. But as we have just mentioned, the classes will start on 6th of July. Suraj is asking Dr. Pasum that how our past academics affect our placements. Would you want to take this question, please?
Past academics affect our placements.
Yes.
Yeah, in some cases, what happens when companies are asking your academic performance from 10th, 12th onwards, and if they have any criteria, right, that they'll not consider, less than a certain percentage, then it may affect. Otherwise, uh, in most of the cases, 70-80% cases, I have seen that how have you performed in your current course? That is more important.
Another question from Aryan is oil and gas management classes would also start from 6th of July?
Yes, yes. All MBAs are going to start from 6th of July.
Khushbu, you have asked me a question on chat. I'm not sure I have been able to follow your question. You're asking how do we know about busy services in Dehradun? I'm not sure. Are you asking about bus services in Dehradun or busy services? So please clarify your question once. Prasum sir, another question. Can we choose data analytics as a minor for logistics and supply chain management?
Yes, yes, yes. We have a basket of major and minors where you can pick up the courses as per your requirement, right? So if you have planned that, suppose you have planned a course logistics and supply chain management, and if you want to specialize further, in the field of supply chain analytics, then you can choose a course on business analytics and you can take it forward from there.
Thank you. Khushbu, bus details to and from Dehradun are available. Details are available on Google. You may Google it and you will come to know. Aditi is asking, is there any dress code to follow? There is no dress code as such to follow, but definitely as a management student, we would always encourage you to dress professionally because your dressing up presence, gives the first impression. The classes to be started from 6th of July would be online or on campus. They are on campus classes. If on campus, by when should we reach the campus? You may take your time. It all depends on if you already have decided on a place to stay in Dehradun and the other modalities. Accordingly, you can decide, but we would always advise that you reach campus on time before the classes start so that you can take the benefit from the very first day and you know what is going on in the classes. If you have not received any information regarding the classes, the start of classes, you will soon receive it, Kalol.
Yes, yes. The preparations are going on, and they will also will get a window to register there. So everything will be done online. So your registration process will be done online, and then you can come 2-3 days in advance where you can plan your stay, and then the classes will finally start from 6th of July.
There's a question when the document verification has to be done within the UPS, as last time the faculty told us that the verification to documents still has to be done. I'm not sure if you're joining this for the first time. If you're an MBA participant, how can it be the last time that you have experienced, that you have shared the experience? Are you repeating your MBA? I'm not sure about it. But nonetheless, while you are receiving a email notification from our end, our office end for joining at the campus, you will also receive details about the registration and how to complete the registration very soon. You will receive those details. There are a lot of questions on infrastructure. Bharat is asking when will we get the room allotment of hostel done and when is the date to report at the campus. The date to report at the campus, Bharat, is 6th of July, as we are repeating, and you will soon receive a communication around this. For the room allotment of the hostel, our enrollment team and also the relationship manager who's attached with you right now would be the best people to help you. We all would urge that you come to Dehradun a day or two prior so that you can make your suitable arrangements. Please keep some time in your hand so that you are not running at the last moment is what we can advise you. Is laptop needed?
Yes.
Yes, laptop is needed. Do we have to bring laptop? Yes, we have replied that. If you have any questions, please don't post on chat. Please kindly ask them on Q&A section so that we can answer them quickly. I think so far we have answered all the questions regarding postal premises, etc. Okay, Prerna, when will the scholarship link be out? I'm not sure if you're referring to scholarship link. I'm sure if you would have submitted your fee, you would have got information about scholarship as well at the time of entrance. But still, I would again urge, because this falls into the enrollment team's perspective, please connect with your relationship manager and with our enrollment team to get a clarity on that, because they would be the best people to help you out on this.
Right.
Is it okay to get a laptop after a month as there is some problem? We can't force you to get a laptop, but we would always advise you and suggest you should have a laptop when you are here at the campus. It will allow you to study at your end also beyond the classes and will come handy to you. We will leave it to your best judgment. I didn't get the relationship manager assigned, Saptrishi. In that case, you have a 24/7 working number, contact customer care number. Please connect on the customer care and they will help you. Try to connect between 10 and 5. That would be the best way to get right information and quick information, quick prompt responses. I think questions related to scholarship, domicile, hostel, and enrollment. I would request all the students to please start connecting with your respective allocated relationship managers. If there is a challenge in that, please call up our customer care number. It is available. You will get a call back in case you have missed connecting with anyone, and you will get your queries sorted out over there. Some of you might have visited the campus. In case you have visited the campus or are planning to visit campus shortly, please visit our enrollment office. It is one office is at Bidoli, one is at Kandoli campus. For School of Business, we also have an office at Kandoli campus. We have all the facilities and we can answer all your questions over here. I would urge all the participants, if you have any questions regarding the school curriculum subject, please ask those questions. Those would be relevant to be asked past, as a part of the session. We would be much better place to answer those questions. Can a tab or iPad be an alternative for laptop?
Yes, why not?
If the functionality permits, definitely you can use the iPad or tab for laptop. When will be the first time exam? I think you first join the school, college, and then we will discuss about first sem exam. Let us meet over here at the college. Please be here on time. And in time to come, we will also share with you when is the first semester exam. Jay is asking, has placement been done for current students? If yes, please specify the average package for logistics. Now that's a question I would like to, really take. Jay, yes, the placement has been done and is ongoing for current students. We have a record of 100% placements for specific average packages. I'm sharing you the link of our placement page. Please go and have a look at the placement highlights. Further, if you have any questions, please let us know and we would be happy to answer you. Dr. Prasum, another question is, sir, is there any time to limit to choose minor specialization?
Yes. So minor specializations will be given to you, major and minor, in second sem and third sem. So you will have first semester time to choose and decide, depending upon your profiling, what you want to do in your respective areas. So you will get, I think it's a sufficient time. First semester is a sufficient time to decide for your majors and minors.
There's another question which has come and attendee is not ready to share his or her name. Can we switch from general MBA to study abroad in second year? I don't know why would you want to do that and why is that question popping up right now? You haven't started even studying at MBA. In case you are interested in going to, uh, there is no question of switch actually over here. The question should be, can we get an opportunity to study abroad in the second year when you are doing a general MBA? Yes, you do get an opportunity. International opportunities do keep coming up. And if you're selected as per the selection criteria, you may get a chance to study abroad. And every partner university have their selection criteria. You may choose once the opportunity comes across, and if selected you may definitely get a chance. Our MBA oil and gas student Syed Takvi has recently gone to Berkeley's, and Dr. Pasum would like to add on to it. Dr. Pasum, yes, please.
Yeah, this attendee is trying to know whether switch can be done from general MBA to study abroad in second year. That will not be possible because there are certain credits which we need to transfer to the partner university, which can be done if you will pursue your first year in MBA Global, right? So I think that would not be feasible. You can join MBA Global, and then if you want, you can go to MBA Core, MBA General, right? But it would not be possible for us to map the credits if you will try to do that. I hope it is clear to you.
Yeah, actually, there was a switch and there was study abroad. So that is why there was both part of it. So we have two programs. What Dr. Prasum is saying is we have two programs, a general MBA and an MBA Global. If you have chosen general MBA, you may not get a switch in second year to global MBA. But if you are asking about study abroad, yes, there are study abroad opportunities in general MBA also in first and second year, where as and when the partner university floats that opportunity, and there are ample of opportunities which are there. So please be clear on that. Sir, do we have 24-hour campus library? We don't have a 24-hour campus library. However, we have a very well-stocked library. We have cases of HBR, Abesco, Harvard Publishing in the library, and you get enough and good chances to attend the library from morning till evening. We have a provision of multiple books being issued to our students, and we have an e-library also, which can be used by our students. Dr. Prasum, you want to add on to this?
Yes, I just want to add, if we can get the sufficient interest to run the library 24 hours, we can do that. We are flexible.
Thank you, sir. Another one, same question. I think I have answered it before. Is there a dress code for the college? No, there is not a dress code for a college, but definitely as management students, we would always urge our students to dress professionally and presentably, because you're dressing up, your first impression is your last, makes a lot of sense. What will be the timing of the classes, Dr. Prasum?
Generally, the timing of the classes would be between 9 to 5 from Monday to Saturday. So
these
there
are
is
indicative, sir. This can change. These are flexible.
No, the time duration will be the same, but there can be the scheduled classes may be different. Sometimes some of the days you may have class at 10, or some of the days you may have class at 12. So it would be like this. And we have flexible timetable. So you have to keep eye on timetable. We have software using SAP where the timetable is developed, and all these students can see, faculty can see their own respective timetables. And there is dynamic concept of class allocation and class scheduling, which can happen. The classes can change, the timing can change, rooms can change. So we have to keep continuously eye on the timetable.
Sir, I will relate your answer to another question which Bharat is asking. Any prerequisite you would suggest us before joining the campus now? One of the prerequisites is that you please kindly make up your mind that you are going to have 100% attendance. And once you are here at the campus, once you are issued the ID, SAP ID and password, please make sure you regularly visit your SAP ID and see the notifications which college is sending you, all the communications from the university. One of the prerequisite can be you can start developing a habit of reading regularly a business newspaper or certainly some business related magazine according to the kind of interest you have, which will help you in a long way. Sir, any more suggestions from your end? What are the prerequisites?
Yes. So since MBA is a kind of open category program where the students come from various backgrounds, right? So some of you may not have background of finance or accounts. Some of you may not have studied economics, these kind of concepts. We generally suggest these students that you should start reading economics, basic books, and quantitative techniques, and little bit basics on finance and accounts. That will help you to pick up the course delivery, right? When your semester will start, it will help you if you don't have background, right? So it is not meant for all, but for this, you can classify what is applicable to you. So if you are an engineer, you may not have studied economics, but you may be good at mathematics, right? Some of us would have studied economics, but they may not be good at mathematics. Then you can choose and you can start preparing for those kind of concepts.
So there is another question. Would you please tell about MNC companies which have come for logistics in current year?
Yeah, uh, you just name. I think we have all kind of companies because this year more than 110 companies have visited. So, and if you will visit the website, you will get all those names.
I have shared the link for our placement reports with Tushar and with the gentleman who has asked the question just now. You can please visit to get a sense of what are the companies who are visiting UPS, School of Business, what are the packages being offered, average salary and top salary. Um, there is a question from Ayush. Can the day scholar stay back at campus after classes?
Why not? You can stay at any time if you want to study, or if you want to spend time in library, or if you want to. In fact, the student spend time, when they join different clubs. So a lot of activities for which they prepare, they stay back, be it sports, be it dance or other cultural activities. So you can do that.
Thank you, sir. Again, there is a question that what is the required attendance percentage? I have just answered it. From our end, we would want you to attend 100% of the classes. So this is the required attendance percentage.
I think this should not be the question, because when you are coming to attend the MBA program, which is a very fast track program, so you should be committed and you should come with the 100% time so that you can attend classes. There will be a lot of sessions from industry experts. A lot of people would be visiting. So if you are planning that you can keep engaged somewhere else, you can complete your MBA, then it is going to be little difficult for you.
So we'll wait for 2 more minutes for any further questions. I don't have any questions in Q&A box as of now.
Right.
I think we have actually reached the time we have kept for this webinar. However, Vinay Kumar is asking new session. I'm not sure what are you asking, Vinay, new session. But I think if you have attended and we have just recently answered the new session for MBA starting on 6th of July. If that's your question. Otherwise, please elaborate. There's another question, sir, whether SAP software will be taught in UPS practical knowledge workshop.
Yes. You are from which course? Which course you have chosen?
Jay, you may need to answer this.
We have these kind of modules.
Logistics. Yes.
Logistics.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes. Sometimes it is a credit course, sometimes it is a non-credit course. So, but in any case, you will be given.
So Aditi is asking, will there be any induction or introductive sessions before the academic classes, or we'll directly head towards the classes?
I think we will do simultaneously. So classes and orientation will go together.
There are no more questions in the chat box, sir. Let me take this opportunity once again to thank our guest speaker, Fab, Rachel, both from JOLT, for a wonderful session. Let me also thank you, Dr. Prasoom and Dr. Debjani, for joining us over here. And most of all, to all our participants for joining us, taking out time. I'm sure you would have taken a lot of nuggets of wisdom from this session. Remember, the entire journey which we have been doing from last 3 months is intended to provide you cutting edge knowledge, to create a learning experience from you and create a bridge from the time you have decided to join at UPS till the time you are here at with us at the campus. We will shortly share with you. There are a couple of more sessions, exciting sessions lined up for you before you actually come at the campus. So keep on looking at your emails, keep on looking at your messages, and keep on following us at our LinkedIn page and at our Instagram page to more about what is happening at School of Business, what are various activities that students are doing at School of Business. You'll get a lot of insights before you even come here at the campus. Thank you once again, everyone. A great day to you, Fab and Rachel, and a great evening to you, Dr. Prasoom, Dr. Debjani, and all our participants.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thanks.